The more we look into human history, the less human it becomes. Have you ever noticed that the room always gets quieter right before you turn on the television? The lights dim, the outside world fades away, the screen waits, dark, still, reflective. For just a moment, it shows you your own face. Then it replaces it. We call it a television, but listen carefully to the word tell a vision. A vision told to you. Before there were televisions, there were black mirrors. Not the mirrors hanging on bedroom walls, older ones, polished obsidian, bowls filled with still water, dark reflective surfaces used in practices known as scrying. Across different cultures and time periods, people believed that gazing into these surfaces could help them reflect, seek insight, or receive visions. The meanings and purposes varied widely, but the image is striking. A dark surface, awaiting gaze, a vision. Thousands of years later, our mirrors still glow. Only now, the visions come much faster. You sit down, you reach for the remote. Remote, a device that works from a distance. The screen awakens, the room disappears, and for the next 2 hours, someone else's story becomes yours. You click on a program, a sequence, an organized arrangement, something designed to unfold one step at a time. Programs exist everywhere. Computers run programs. Machines run programs. Television runs programs. But have you ever stopped to ask why we chose that word? Then you choose a channel, a pathway, a conduit, something that carries. Water flows through channels. Radio signals travel across channels. People sometimes use the word channel to describe expressing ideas they feel come from beyond themselves. The word has always suggested movement, something passing through. And what passes through your screen? Stories, music, ideas, symbols, dreams, nightmares, heroes, villains, entire worlds built from light. Then there's another word, media. Media is simply the plural of medium. A medium is something that carries something else. Air carries sound. Paper carries ink. Film carries images. Screens carry stories. Every civilization has had its mediums. What changes isn't the idea, only the technology. Storytelling may be one of humanity's oldest inventions. Long before books, there were campfires. Long before streaming, there were voices echoing through caves. Stories taught children, preserved history, warned communities, passed on values. Stories have always shaped people. That isn't controversial. It's human. But stories also do something else. They give us pictures of courage, pictures of beauty, pictures of success, pictures of failure. And the more often we see the same picture, the more familiar it becomes. Psychologists have long studied what's called the mirror exposure effect, the tendency for repeated exposure to make something feel more familiar and often more acceptable. Sometimes familiarity quietly becomes normal. Now think about the words we use. Broadcast, broadcast. To cast something is to throw it outward, to spread it, to distribute it. The message travels far beyond the person who created it. Then there's the news. Some people have noticed that the letters can also be arranged as the initials for north, east, west, south, a symbolic way of imagining information arriving from every direction. Whether or not that reflects the origin of the word, it's an interesting way to think about how news is meant to gather events from across the world. North, east, west, south, every direction, every day, every hour, a constant flow of stories. And then the cast, actors, characters, roles, the people chosen to tell the story. We cast actors, we cast nets, we cast bronze, the same word used in different ways. Language has a strange habit of carrying old echoes into new places. Words change, meanings shift, cultures evolve, but sometimes old symbols survive long after we've forgotten where they came from. Which brings us to Hollywood. Why Hollywood? Out of every name, why that one? Most people never ask. They simply accept it. Hollywood, the entertainment capital of the world. The place where stories are manufactured, dreams are sold, stars are born. But before it became a city, before it became an industry, before it became an idea, Holly already had a story of its own. Hollywood. It's a name almost everyone knows. Millions of people speak it every day, but very few stop and ask where it came from. The commonly accepted history is that the name Hollywood was chosen in the late 1800s during the area's development. Beyond that, many writers, researchers, and storytellers have explored symbolic meanings connected to the word holly and the traditions surrounding the holly tree. Whether you see those symbolic connections as meaningful or simply fascinating folklore, they have endured for centuries. Long before movie studios, before cameras, before sound stages, the holly tree already held a place in European folklore. Its leaves stayed green through winter. Its berries stood out against the snow. To many communities, it became a symbol of endurance, protection, life in the middle of death. Different traditions attached different meanings to it. Some regarded it as protective. Some associated it with winter festivals. Others linked it to stories of magic. Magic, an idea that has captured the human imagination for thousands of years. And one symbol has followed that idea through nearly every age: the wand. A forest, ancient trees, dark branches reaching toward the sky. Among them, one tree stood out, evergreen, unchanging, alive, even in the coldest months, the holly tree. Long before Hollywood became a symbol of entertainment, the word itself carried older associations. The holly tree appeared throughout European folklore. Its green leaves during winter made it a natural symbol of endurance, a reminder that life could continue even during the darkest season. Its sharp leaves, its bright berries, its ability to survive. Over time, it became connected with ideas of protection, strength, and mystery. And then there was the wood. Holly wood, a material that became connected to another ancient symbol, the wand. A wand, a simple object, a piece of wood. Yet across countless stories, it became something more, a tool of transformation, a symbol of direction, a way to focus intention. The wand appears again and again throughout mythology and folklore. The magician, the sorcerer, the wise figure standing between worlds. One movement and reality changes. One gesture and the impossible appears possible. Perhaps the most famous example is Merlin, the legendary wizard of Arthurian stories, a figure associated with wisdom, prophecy, and hidden knowledge. Over centuries, Merlin transformed from a character in medieval legends into one of the most recognizable images of the magician, the old man, the robe, the staff, the knowledge beyond ordinary sight. But notice something. The power was never really in the object, the wand, the staff, the tool. The power came from the person holding it. The object simply focused the action. And maybe that's why the symbol survived, because every age creates its own version of the wand. The tool changes, the purpose remains. Today, the storytellers don't stand in forests holding wooden staffs. They stand behind cameras, behind editing software, behind microphones, behind screens. The modern storyteller carries different tools: a camera, a lens, a script, a keyboard, a computer. But the goal is familiar: to create an experience, to guide attention, to transport someone somewhere else. A camera is more than a machine that records. It is a choice. Someone decides where it points. Someone decides what enters the frame. And someone decides what remains unseen. Because every frame is a decision. Think about a movie scene: the lighting, the angle, the music, the colors, the expression on an actor's face, the silence before a line is spoken. None of it happens randomly. Every detail helps create a feeling. A close-up can make a character feel vulnerable. Dark lighting can create mystery. A slow movement can help build tension. A certain song can attach emotion to a memory. The storyteller guides the experience, one choice at a time. And this is where storytelling becomes fascinating, because humans are not just creatures that receive information. We are creatures that create meaning. The brain is naturally drawn to stories. A list of facts can be forgotten, but a story, a story can stay for decades. Why? Because stories connect information with emotion. They create characters, conflict, goals, transformation. They allow us to imagine, what would I do? How would I feel? Could that be me? This is why stories have always shaped civilizations. Ancient myths, religious texts, national legends, family histories. Stories tell us who we are, and sometimes who we should become. Entertainment may seem like an escape, a way to relax, a way to pass time. And it is. But entertainment is also one of the most powerful ways humans exchange ideas. A message hidden inside a story does not feel like a lecture. It feels like an experience. We don't just hear the idea, we live through it. We feel the character's emotions. We remember the moment. That's why a movie can stay with someone years after watching it. A single scene, a single image, a single line can become attached to a person's identity. And then there is glamour, a word we use today for beauty, fame, style, celebrity. But the history of the word is more mysterious. In older folklore traditions, glamour was associated with enchantment, a way of changing perception, making something appear differently than it truly was, whether viewed as literal magic in old stories, or simply as a metaphor for influence. The idea is powerful, the ability to shape how something is perceived. And few places understand perception better than Hollywood. The lights, the costumes, the red carpets, the carefully created images, the transformation of ordinary people into icons. Hollywood doesn't just tell stories, it creates worlds, it creates symbols, it creates dreams. The wand changed, the forest became the studio, the spell became the story, the magic became the image. But perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the tool, not the camera, not the screen, not the wand. The real mystery is the person holding it. Because every storyteller is shaping something, a vision, an idea, a feeling, a memory. In a world filled with endless images, one question remains. Who is choosing what we see? A city of lights, a city of signs, a city where dreams are given names and names become legends. Hollywood. To some, it is simply a place, a neighborhood, an industry, a collection of studios and theaters. But to the world, Hollywood became something much larger, a symbol, a language, a factory, where imagination becomes reality. Because Hollywood doesn't only create movies, it creates worlds, a distant planet, a forgotten kingdom, a future that doesn't exist yet, a past that has been recreated, a hero, a villain, a fantasy, a nightmare, all brought to life through light and shadow. And perhaps that is why the phrase Dream Factory has followed Hollywood for generations. Because dreams are not random images, they're experiences, they're emotions, they're stories we enter, even while awake. But every dream has a creator, someone who builds the world, someone who chooses the colors, someone who decides what appears and what disappears. The director, the writer, the designer, the actor, the thousands of people behind the scenes. Each one holds a piece of the wand. And then there are the stars. The word itself is fascinating. For thousands of years, humans have looked upward toward the stars. They guided travelers, inspired myths, marked the passing of time. People looked into the sky and created stories. Today, we still look toward the stars, but now many of them are on screens. Movie stars, music stars, television stars. The language remained, the direction changed. The stars above once helped people navigate the world. The stars on screen help people imagine one. And Hollywood understands the power of symbols. The famous landmarks, the theaters, the signs, the architecture, the imagery. Places like the Hollywood Walk of Fame and historic theaters became more than locations. They became symbols of achievement, fame, recognition, dreams becoming permanent. The red carpet, the spotlight, the award ceremony. The ceremony itself becomes part of the story because humans have always created rituals around what we value. Ancient civilizations built monuments. Communities created ceremonies. Cultures created symbols. Hollywood created its own mythology. The hero's journey, the rise from obscurity, the moment of transformation, the final victory. These patterns appear again and again because they connect with something deeply human. We recognize them, we understand them, we feel them. And this is where intention becomes important. A filmmaker does not simply place random images on a screen. A costume tells us something about a character. A setting tells us something about a world. A song tells us what emotion to feel. A camera angle tells us where to look. Every choice creates meaning, even silence. Sometimes the absence of sound says more than words. A pause, a stare, a moment where nothing happens can become the most memorable part of a story. Because storytelling is not only what is shown, it is also what is felt. Think about the movies that stayed with you, not just the ones you watched, the ones you remember. Years later, you may forget the plot, you may forget the details, but you remember the feeling, the scene, the music, the image, the emotion. A story can leave the screen and continue living inside the person who watched it. A fictional character can become an inspiration. A quote can become a personal motto. A movie can become connected to a specific moment in someone's life. The story becomes part of the viewer's own story. And maybe that's the true power of the Dream Factory. Not that it creates illusions, but that it creates experiences. Experiences powerful enough to travel beyond the screen. But this brings us back to the question from earlier, the question hidden inside the wand. If every story has a creator, if every image has an intention, if every frame is a choice, who is holding the wand? Is it the director, the studio, the writer, the audience? Maybe the answer is more complicated, because stories are not completed when they are created. They are completed when they are received. The creator builds the world, but the viewer enters it. The creator offers the vision, but the viewer gives it meaning. And that means the most important part of the dream factory may not be the factory at all. It may be the person sitting in the dark, watching, listening, feeling, the person standing before the mirror. Because every dream requires someone to dream it, and every vision requires someone to see it. The screen glows, the story begins, the images move, the world disappears. But before we look away, we should ask one final question. What happens when the dream factory doesn't just entertain us, but begins to shape the way we see reality itself? A dark room, a glowing screen, a person sitting silently, watching. For a moment, nothing else exists. The outside world becomes distant. The lights from the room disappear, and all attention is drawn to the image in front of you. The screen, the modern black mirror. But now look closer, because the most important in this person, in this room, is not the person on the screen. It is the person looking at it. For thousands of years, humans have searched for visions in the stars, in dreams, in stories, in reflections. Ancient cultures looked into polished stones, dark water, reflective surfaces. They searched for meaning, answers, possibilities. The purpose and beliefs surrounding these practices varied across cultures. Some saw reflection as a way of seeking insight. Others saw it as a connection to imagination and symbolism. But the image remains fascinating. A person standing before darkness waiting to see something appear. And today, we do something remarkably similar. We sit before glowing screens. We wait for images. We search for stories. We look into another world. The technology changed. The human desire remained. We still want to see. We still want to understand. We still want a window into something beyond ourselves. And that may be why storytelling has always been so powerful. A story is not just information, it is an experience. It gives us somewhere to go, someone to follow, something to feel. A character can become a friend. A villain can become a warning. A fictional world can become a place we return to again and again. But there is something else happening. Stories also influence how we see. They introduce ideas. They present possibilities. They show us what is considered beautiful, what is considered heroic, what is considered normal. Not because every story controls us, but because stories are one of the ways humans understand the world. From childhood, we learn through stories, the hero, the villain, the reward, the consequence, the journey. These patterns become familiar, and familiar things become easier to recognize. This is why repeated images matter. A symbol appearing once may be forgotten, but a symbol appearing again and again can become part of the cultural language. A phrase, a character, a style, an image. Eventually it becomes something people recognize instantly. Hollywood has mastered this language. A hero standing against impossible odds. A villain hidden in darkness. A romance destined to happen. A world waiting to be saved. These are more than plots. These are patterns. And patterns are powerful. because the human mind searches for meaning. But there is another side to the mirror. A mirror does not only show, it reflects. When we watch a story, we bring ourselves into it, our memories, our beliefs, our experiences. Two people can watch the same movie and walk away with completely different meanings. One person sees inspiration, another sees a warning. One person sees entertainment, another sees symbolism. The creator creates the image, but the viewer completes the experience. And this brings us back to the word, medium. A medium is something that carries something else, a bridge between one place and another. The storyteller sends something outward, an idea, a message, a feeling. The medium carries it. The screen delivers it. The audience receives it. But the final destination is inside the mind. The most powerful stories are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are the ones that quietly remain. A scene you remember years later, a character who changed how you think, a sentence that stayed with you. The story leaves the screen, but it continues living. And perhaps that is the true mystery of the Black Mirror. Not that it shows us another world, but that it reveals something about our own. What we admire, what we fear, what we desire, what we question. Because every time we watch a story, we are also looking at ourselves. The screen reflects the image, but the mind reflects the meaning. And that is why the viewer matters. The story does not end when the credits roll. The conversation continues. The questions continue. The interpretation continues. Because the relationship between creator and audience is not one way. The creator offers a vision. The viewer gives it life. And maybe that is the greatest mystery of storytelling. The person holding the wand creates the image, but the person holding the gaze decides what it becomes. The Black Mirror waits, the vision appears, the story begins. But before we accept every image placed before us, before we let every message settle in, there is one final step: to question, not reject, not fear, not assume, but simply to look closer. Because a suspicious mind does not close its eyes, it opens them. A black screen, a single flicker of light. A reflection appears. For thousands of years, humans have searched for visions in the darkness of caves, in the stars above, in stories told around fires, in mirrors that reflected more than just a face. And today, we search through screens. The technology changes, the tools evolve, but something remains the same: the human desire to see, to understand, to find meaning. That is why stories matter. Not because every story contains a hidden message, not because every symbol has a secret meaning, but because stories are one of the oldest ways humans communicate. They preserve memories. They express ideas. They challenge beliefs. They help us understand ourselves. A story is never just a collection of images. Every image comes from somewhere. Every word has a history. Every symbol carries a story. Sometimes the meaning is intentional. Sometimes it develops over time. Sometimes the meaning comes from the audience itself. But the most important thing is to pay attention, because symbols surround us: a color, a shape, a repeated image, a familiar phrase. Some are chosen carefully. Some become meaningful because cultures give them meaning. Some simply become part of the language we share. But all of them tell us something about the people who created them. And that is why curiosity matters. A suspicious mind is not a mind that believes everything. It is not a mind that rejects everything. It is a mind that asks questions. Why does this image appear? Why does this story stay with me? Why do certain ideas repeat? Why do certain moments become unforgettable? Questions are where understanding begins, because the opposite of curiosity is not certainty. It is never looking closer. The black mirror has always represented a doorway, a reflective surface, a place where we search for visions, a place where we confront what we see. But perhaps the most important reflection is not the one on the screen. It is the one within ourselves. Every time we watch a story, we reveal something: our interests, our fears, our hopes, our imagination. The stories we choose often say something about the worlds we want to explore. And maybe that is why Hollywood has such cultural power. It does not simply create entertainment. It creates shared experiences. Millions of people can laugh at the same scene, cry at the same moment, remember the same character, repeat the same words. A story can travel farther than its creator ever imagined. From a studio to a screen, from a screen to a person, from a person into the culture around them. The vision moves, the mirror reflects, the audience responds, and the cycle continues. But after everything we have explored, the question remains: who is holding the wand? The director, the writer, the studio, the technology, the audience? Maybe the answer is all of them, because storytelling has always been a relationship. The creator shapes the vision, the medium carries it, the viewer gives it meaning. No single person owns the entire story, but every person has a role. And that leads us to the final mirror, the one we rarely talk about, the screen behind your eyes. Because before an image appears on a television, before a movie begins, before a story enters your mind, there is a choice. What will you watch? What will you believe? What will you remember? What will you carry with you? The most powerful screen is not the one hanging on your wall. It is the one you carry inside yourself. Your imagination, your attention, your perspective. Because whoever influences what we see influences the stories we tell ourselves. And the stories we tell ourselves help shape the world we experience. So the next time the room gets quiet and the screen lights up, remember the journey, the black mirror, the vision, the broadcast, the wand, the dream factory, the storyteller, the viewer. All connected, not because every mystery has one simple answer, but because every story deserves a closer look. The wand was never just the object. The mirror was never just glass. The story was never just a story, because humans have always searched for visions. We have always looked into mirrors. We have always searched for meaning. So the final question is not, what are they showing us? The final question is, what are we choosing to see? Who is telling your story? Who is shaping the images you carry? Who is choosing the visions you allow into your mind? Maybe the answer is simple. Maybe the mystery is deeper. Maybe the truth exists somewhere between the two. But the next time you look into the black mirror, pause, look closer, question more, notice the symbols, listen to the words. Remember that every image has a history, and every story has a storyteller. And most importantly, remember that you are not just watching the story, you are part of it. So keep searching, keep questioning, keep wondering, and above all, keep the suspicious.